Welcome to the February 2024 market update for Portland, Oregon. My name is Will. I will be diving into the macroeconomics, the local economics, and better understanding what that means for you as a buyer, seller, or investor. Let's dive right into it. One of the bigger macroeconomic factors that we are considering right now is interest rates. They were down a little bit in January, but we are now in the low sevens as of right now. And this is particularly from the stronger economic indicators as for the job reports. We were expecting a lot less jobs to be coming in, and we saw a lot more than was expected. Now, the Federal Reserve is looking at a variety of different factors when it comes to the Federal Reserve rate. And we are looking at the core inflation is at around 3.9%, which is still heading towards the right direction, whereas overall inflation hasn't really moved too much and it's hovering around that 3.1%. It's always a good idea to better understand what the Federal Reserve is wanting. They have two major mandates. One is to essentially keep unemployment low, and then the other is to keep inflation under control. When they are focusing on one, they are okay with dealing with the repercussions of the other. So right now, they are going to probably continue to keep the Federal Reserve rate high in order to make sure that they see a downward trend and get closer to that 2% inflation rate. Once they start seeing a lot of job loss, that's actually a good sign for them to potentially decrease the Federal Reserve rates. But until then, don't be expecting anything to change majorly. For my predictions, my guess is that it will probably take another 6 to 9 months to really get to the point where we start to see rates drop significantly. Now let's switch to a little bit more of a local perspective when it comes to the Portland housing market. As of right now, about 41.8% of houses are off the market within 2 weeks of them being listed. Seeing that rebound from the winter where it was much lower, and we will probably continue to see this percentage rise as it is a seasonal effect. This will kind of create a differential in the market of having houses that go very quickly and then another market where houses tend to stay on the market for a longer period of time. Speaking of days on market, the median days on market, depending on what sub area or sub neighborhood you are in, has ranged from anywhere between 35 to about 109. If you are a seller who is not wanting to do a lot of extra work, just keep that in mind that you'll probably have to have your listing on the market for a little bit of longer period of time. Back before COVID, we did expect to see that the house would stay on the market for anywhere between 60 to 90 days, and that was a more common thing to see, and we were just moving back towards what was the norm before the pandemic. We are sitting at about 3.2 months of inventory here in the Portland metro market, and that is great news for buyers, where we were definitely not in a great place a couple years ago. However, we're moving much more towards a neutral market. Now, if we were to go into a buyer's market, we would have to be closer to that 6 months mark. Overall, in the Portland housing market, I do expect that there to be some appreciation, but probably not as much as the previous years, and maybe getting closer to the baseline or base trend when it comes to the 30 to 50 year time frame, which is anywhere between 3 to 5%. If we do look on a national level, a lot of people are looking at seeing the property values increase over this next year as well. Now, some advice for the buyers out there in the Portland metro market. I do advise to start looking at those properties that maybe need a little bit more TLC and then have also been on the market for 30 plus days. It's a great way for you to get your foot in the door, and even though you might have to deal with a little bit more elbow grease, it would be a great way for you to add value or force appreciation with that property. If you are looking for a house that's maybe a little bit more done up and ready to go and is more turnkey, just know that you're going to need to be patiently aggressive. That means that you understand exactly what you're wanting, you're pre-approved, and you are ready to go. You are going to be potentially put into situations where you're going to be competing against other buyers and you're not going to be competing against the sellers. So keep that in mind and understand what to expect if you are looking in those two different areas. One major thing that I have been stressing to my buyers is that buying real estate or buying a house is a get-rich-slow process. This is an investment that you will be putting in for about 5 to 7 years, hopefully at the minimum, in order to make sure that you recoup everything that you have put into it and potentially get a little bit more extra. Trying to time the market is incredibly hard. It is not something that is easy to do. And one thing that is also a large difference between buying a house and the stock market is that you don't live in the stock market. Buying a house is something that you live in and it's a part of your life. Advice for my sellers out there right now: it is a great time to make sure that you are getting everything ready for the listing. There is a immense amount of prep work that happens for listings when it comes to getting them ready to be put on the market, making sure that you get all of the small little details done and making sure that all the paperwork is in order, so that way you have a great start to the transaction. What is something that tends to happen with a lot of transactions is that the paperwork's not done properly, or that it's not done in a timely fashion, and so you're getting rushed through a bunch of these things. And it's always a good idea to look at talking with an agent and getting everything kind of lined up, so that way you can be ready when you want to pull that trigger of moving forward on getting the listing out there and then moving and getting everything sorted out from there. One caveat I want to add into this advice as well for condo and townhouse owners is that your house might sit on the market for a little bit longer. We have seen that the days on market, or the median days on market for condos and townhouses especially, has gotten a little bit longer. So keep that in mind when you are looking to list your place, is that to set your expectations and better understand the market, unless you price aggressively, in which point that will be something that could potentially have that house go that much sooner. Now, some advice for the house hackers or investors out there: there are definitely not a ton of great deals. Looking back at 2023, there was not a lot of transactions, and overall we have seen a decrease in the amount of listings or small multifamily listings as well. So it's a good idea to make sure that you are still building up those skills of being able to analyze deals quickly, because of the fact that a lot of times when a good property comes up and it has good financials and it frankly makes sense, then that's gone within that weekend. So it's a good idea to be prepared and make sure that you are patiently aggressive. There's also some opportunities if you have been seeing a house sit on the market for a longer period of time and we're not $100,000 or $150,000 off when it comes to the purchase price to make the numbers work. There has been some great opportunities to negotiate there, and then also potentially using some sort of seller financing has been also a great opportunity. Overall, we have seen that the Portland market has still stayed relatively resilient when it comes to home prices. We have seen some dips in some submarkets from last year, and it's a good idea to keep in mind that we don't know where the market's going to go. If you have someone that is saying this is absolutely going to happen, the likelihood that they are right is probably 50-50. So it's making sure that you are taking these steps and being as strategic as possible, and understanding the fact that you cannot time the market to be perfect. So keeping that in mind, making sure that you are making these decisions that are long-term decisions, so that way you can better understand what risks you are willing to take and maybe risks that you aren't. And if you're not looking to buy right now, or if it feels too unaffordable, that's totally understandable. You should be making sure that you set yourself up financially to make sure that you are successful, meaning that you get the reserve that's needed in order to make that happen, along with looking at other programs that you can maybe get to ensure that you have a little bit more for that down payment or whatever the costs that come with buying a house. And same goes for sellers. Understand that if you need to maybe turn your house into a rental for a short period of time and then sell it later down the line, that might be the best option, especially if you have a super low interest rate. And if you're ever curious about running those numbers or having those options, feel free to reach out. I do have free client consults in general to kind of walk you through the options you have, so that way you can fully understand what you can do that will be the best choice for you. Thank you for tuning into this market update, and if you want to like and subscribe, it helps out my channel a ton. Thank you so much for watching.